From Jenna Ortega succeeding against all odds, to Jeanette McCurdy basically throwing away her career. Are all child stars doomed to fail? It's hard to be young and successful in Hollywood. Tinseltown has failed many of its child stars over the years. But is that the only fate a child star can look forward to? I'm actually going to start with a success story first. It's safe to say that Jenna Ortega is one of the hottest names in Hollywood right now. She rocked the world as Wednesday Addams in the Netflix show named after her character. And she's a big reason why that show has smashed the streamers' records.
I don't know what it is about, having blood thrown on your face and running around screaming bloody murder, but it really is so therapeutic, so much fun. Everyone who works on horror sets loves horror, people.
What's even more impressive is that Ortega has added this success to her resume at the age of 20. Wednesday was far from her first role, of course. The actress from SoCal first set her eyes on showbiz at the age of 6, despite the lack of support from her parents. She started getting small-scale roles in 2012, including a brief appearance in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But the role that really put her on the map was Jane the Virgin, in which she played the younger version of the title character. From there, she added Stuck in the Middle and You to her profile. But Wednesday is the show that's gotten her on the Hollywood A-list. So far, I think you'd agree that this is a success story, like I said it was.
She is just such a talented actor. I've always been a fan of her work, and obviously it all started with Wednesday, so I think it was a little intimidating, definitely, trying to...
But we haven't talked about what it cost her. Jenna's talked about the difficulties of being famous at such a young age. In interviews, she's described the need to grow up faster than kids usually have to, as well as coping with the insane pressure that comes with the job. It wasn't just acting either, as the actress has been using her platform to advocate for immigrant and LGBT rights. How weird is it that a 13-year-old even had a platform? Last year, Ortega confided that she was on the verge of quitting acting for soccer, which was her other passion. Unfortunately, it was just another thing she had to sacrifice on the road to stardom. Stories like hers are a reminder that as easy as acting looks, it's something you need to give your whole heart to. All things considered, Jenna has handled the work and stress quite well. As I'm sure you know, Hollywood is full of stories of children who cracked under the strain. Often, kids can get suffocated by the pressure from Hollywood and from their own parents. Jenna's parents may have been dismissive of her dreams, but many child star parents see acting as easy money. The streets of Hollywood are full of stories of families trying to push their kids onto the big screen, especially when the parents were struggling to make ends meet. We got to read a story in this vein just last year, shockingly titled, "I'm Glad My Mom Died."
Wanted me to have a better life than she had, but I also think her approach was very unhealthy and informed by her own lack of self-worth.
The memoir of iCarly star Jeanette McCurdy. The mom in question pushed Jeanette into acting at a really young age, both because the family needed the money and because she personally wanted to live out her dreams through her daughter. Jen was so scarred by her experiences in Hollywood that her acting has become sporadic in recent years. And to make matters worse, she didn't even receive much of the money that she personally earned in her childhood. I hate to say it, but in the grand scheme of things, McCurdy still had a better fate than many actors like her. But this is old news, right? At least this kind of thing doesn't happen anymore, right? Well, to Hollywood's credit, they've made some positive changes. Some of those changes came from new laws, while others have come from a cultural shift. For example, on the legal front, studios are now restricted by the law when it comes to working conditions for children, including how many hours they can work and what kind of work they can do.
I think she was a really complicated and nuanced person, and I try to kind of articulate her to the best of my ability in all of her many shades and colors. To me, her humor is really
Children also have way more options at their disposal for reporting abuse and control from parents, and studios have to be receptive to those kinds of signals. If they end up in court, they could be charged with negligence. Things have gotten a lot better for kids in Hollywood these days, but they're still not perfect. There's no getting around the fact that Hollywood is a hard place to work. Although the movie and TV industry has to work within a legal system, they can and will do whatever they can to make their projects successful successful within that system. That means that in the acting business, there's little special consideration for kids. They're maybe not expected to work quite as hard as adults do, but it's not an easy ride. Yeah, Jenna might be incredibly successful at the age of 20, but that's only because she's been grinding it since before she was even 10. How many 10-year-olds are willing to commit themselves to their dreams in that way?
I'm so thrilled with the reaction. I never expected this to happen. It's been kind of blowing my mind. It's been, what is it?
And when things go wrong for child stars, bad things can happen. That way lies madness, folks. From Macaulay Culkin to Lindsay Lohan, the stories of promising careers crashing and burning are just too common. Often, it's the drugs that push an actor's self-destruct button. It's hard to imagine how anyone can cope with the stress of doing multiple roles and shoots at once without help. But we all know that drugs are no help at all, and it's way too easy to spiral downward because of them. That being said, it's easy enough to spiral without drugs too.
As a 10-year-old, it was great. It was my favorite day as a child. Let's go to Rockefeller Center.
Wait, that's right.
Yeah.
You did that, and was that the end of the movie?
Your mind is perfectly capable of cracking under the weight of the workload and expectations. This is honestly something that has ended the careers of even adults.
When you're in front of the camera? It feels different because I took almost a decade off of being on set. And so when I came back onto set this time, it felt really...
And children remain far more vulnerable to this kind of breakdown, to such an extent that ending up broken out of a job is technically the happy ending. It's worth thinking about all that the next time you see a child acting on screen. And it's also worth considering just how many children are part of the Hollywood machine. Now, all that being said, I want to circle back to the question that started this video. Are child stars doomed to fail? I think the moral of the story is that Hollywood will always be a tough place to work. There are some realities of showbiz that just cannot change. You could try to use the long arm of the law to change things, like how many roles a child can take at once, but I do feel this would just restrict the child's prospects.
Because she gets scared of all those dead people in her house. And you know that saying, can't beat them, join them.
Hollywood is always going to need child actors, and kids with stars in their eyes will always try to push themselves to the next level. What's important for kids these days is to have access to a support network, from sympathetic crew members to licensed therapists to the parents. The more people that kids have in their corner, so to speak, the better things will turn out for them. If kids aren't capable of looking after themselves and managing their mental and physical health, someone should be out there doing it for them. And for what it's worth, this is something that the movie industry has started taking into consideration. It's worth pointing out that stories of child actors going off the rails have faded a bit in the 2010s and 2020s. This has been the safest time in history for a child in Hollywood. Just ask Jenna Ortega. But that doesn't mean that the conditions are perfect. They should keep trying to make the situation better and better, because mental health is far more important than money and fame. That's all the coverage of children in Hollywood I have for you today.